Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. A few of you already on, which is awesome. Good to see the early birds catching the worms or the cups of coffee. Hope you're all awesome and well, wherever you are. Morning to you, Chris. Mate, how are you? Shazza, Sharon. Morning. Hope you're well. Alex, mate, howdy. Jeff. Good to see you. There's Brad. He's in the house as well. G'day, mate. Alison. Yes, I saw him too. Marcus is doing the rounds. He's out and about. That's good to see. It's awesome to see. He's up and out there in the world, sharing his message, which we love. Rose, morning to you. No, you're dead right, Jeff. We don't want to catch any worms, really, do we? All right, I hope you're well, folks. Hope you're well. While we get things warmed up here and people jump on, quick hellos, quick intros, as we tend to do in the show. Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats. Folks, my name's Jason Witten. If you didn't already know, in the mornings, usually weekdays, we get together and have a conversation, about 15 minutes, sometimes a little longer. And we hang out and talk to you wonderful folks. And we say a little hello. So if you're there and you're new to the show and want to say hello, like Adrian here, morning, mate. Luke. Then drop us a little chat in the chat. Drop us a little message in the chat is more accurate. Let us know where you are, what you're up to, how you're rolling. We hang out in the mornings, talk about property investing, talk about investing, in broad terms. Try and keep ourselves on track because the media likes to keep you off track, the fear and ignorance. We want to just get down to the facts. So that's what this morning's all about. So welcome along. If that's you, great to have you here. This morning I thought we might talk about a couple of terms and a couple of thoughts and ideas, a little bit practical this morning. The idea of buffer, a buffer for a property or your investments, liquidity, redraw, offset, and talk about those terms and how they're used. We've been talking about those in the last little bit and had a few questions about them. I thought we might dive into those today and have a little bit of a conversation about what we're up to and, how in loose terms you would apply these in maybe a scenario, or how I've supplied them or applied them in a scenario, and maybe, how you might have applied them in a scenario. The general idea is the same. The specifics are often down to you. So let's talk about that today. That's what we might have a conversation about and talk about these terms. What are these terms? What do these things mean, folks? What do they mean? Buffer. Put it in the chat, So buffer, when we talk about this in property investing terms, it is the amount of money that you should have set aside for certain things that may happen in the world of your property investing or property investment that Sometimes you need some instant cash, gives you some room to then sort out some things, and then make sure that buffer is at a certain level, right? Funds for the unexpected. Exactly, Brad. Exactly. Now, the question, I get this all the time, how much should you keep in your buffer? All right, folks. So tell me, how do you roll? What do you put in your buffer? Now, a buffer is funds for the unexpected. I do it per investment property, repairs you weren't expecting. Exactly. Often, folks, this one catches many of us unexpected. Let's say something breaks. Let's say something does break, and Alison said, right, okay, I've got to repair something. Let's say the hot water system breaks. So, I had an oven issue the other week in one of my properties, right? So it cost me $3 or $4 grand to get that sorted. But I could claim it on insurance, right? So you go, all right, well, do you wait? Do you wait for the oven's broken? You've got a tenant. You've got to repair the thing. Okay, well, hang on. I'll just claim it on insurance and then repair it. What do you guys reckon? How long does that usually take when it comes to those sorts of things? How long's the damn insurer going to take to give you your funds and repair the thing? Is it instant, folks? Tell me in the chat. What's your experience in that, right? Yeah. Urgent repairs must be done ASAP. Exactly, because then the tenant can stop. So you're dead right. Alison, absolutely. Must be done straight away. Brad, don't wait. No, never wait, folks. And never wait. And this is the thing, some often, great way to upset the tenant. Exactly, Sharon. Often, some maybe inexperienced investors or someone who's like, oh, listen, I don't have the right cash flow. They haven't put a buffer aside, get stuck. And then you end up annoying your tenant, piss your tenant off. The tenant stops paying rent. Then your agent, it causes issues. Okay. So, and insurance won't always pay up front. Okay. So the point is buffer, things for the unexpected. Absolutely. 100% things for the unexpected, folks. And per investment property. And Brad chucked it up there. I like the idea of 5 to 10K. If they're older properties, folks, you need more. If they're newer properties, you need less. Now, that buffer, if you are in sort of acquisition phase, and let's say you had 5 investment properties, tucking away 50K, that sounds about right. And that might be a little bit more than you think, but that could keep you, a bit of sleep at night factor. All right. So sleep at night, anywhere from 25 to 50K. It's for unexpected things, folks. Unexpected things. And away we go. Right. So, and you're dead right, Alison. We're not slumlords. We're professional investors. The people who pay for your interest costs and other costs are your tenants. Look after your tenants. Your property manager, a good professional property manager, will do that with you. But don't muck around. All right. Make sure you have the funds there in your buffer at all times, and it won't be a problem. And it's money allocated to that property. Money allocated to the property. It's not yours. It's the property's. Okay. Now, let's talk about liquidity. Now, what do I mean by liquidity? Other than your buffer, which might not be significant in your property, yeah, you're dead right, Chris. And I think it's a great way to think about this. Your tenant is a partner in this wealth creation that you're pursuing and creating. So think about that in those terms, and work with that, especially with your property manager as well. Now, liquidity. What is liquidity? What's liquidity, folks? What does that mean? Now, what does that mean? It's a weird word. People, especially financial planners and those share market conversations. It talks about the ability for you to get access to money or dollars fast. Now, one of the challenges with real estate, and I like that it's a challenge for you and me and others. Well, I like it. Yeah. How quickly can you turn an asset into cash? Exactly, Chris. And often the conversation is about the liquidity of your assets when it comes to what? How do you, what's the general gist of the regular market thinking about, okay, how quickly can I turn this into cash? And most people say, all right, well, how quick can I sell the thing? How quick can I sell the thing and get the cash? That's it. That's it. Alison, you're dead right. Now, for us, you guys know the drill. I talk about this all the time. Buy well, don't sell. If you're stuck, how can you create a form of liquidity with your property investments? All right. And a form of liquidity is access to equity. Okay. Equity access. All right. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And really, morning, Mick. How are you, mate? So we're not stuck. We're not forced to sell if we get ourselves in a bit, if we need a bit more than what's sitting in our buffer, folks. Because the worst thing, what happens when you do sell, right? And I've done the math on this a few times. You sell a property, the in costs, the stamp duty and so on. The out cost, which is capital gains tax and agents' fees, often they add up to about 10% in and out, right? So if you only make a small margin on the deal, often the selling process is less effective than, let's say, if you can get access to the equity, and keep moving on. So let's talk about that. And let's talk about redraw and offset. How does it work? How would we do it? And, what's the best way to run this? So let's have a look at these things. This would be a typical setup for an investor. You've got a principal place of residence. You've got your owner-occupier mortgage here. I'm going to put it in red. Let's say you got $400K of non-deductible debt. Okay. And you've got to pay for that out of your own pocket, right? Out of your own pocket, right, folks? Let's say the thing's worth, $800K, and then you get yourself, and I'm just going to round this up, team. You get yourself a couple of $100,000 worth of equity, access to equity in here, and you buy a couple of investment properties. So, you split that in two, and $100,000 goes into one, and then $100,000 goes into two. Now, this is kind of linear, so you've already got that, and then the rest of it, let's call it, $600K mortgage. I'm just going to round that up, and you guys know the drill. So how does this work? What do we do when it comes to our investments, and how do we run this structure when it comes to your offsets, your redraws, your et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's look at that. Let's talk about this, and let's talk about liquidity. All right, in these sense. So how does it work, folks? Number one, your offset. So an offset, you only need an offset on what, folks? You only need one offset, because an offset actually costs you a little bit of money. And if you're not using it, if you're not using the offset, then it doesn't work. Now there's, often you go, okay, well, we'll do offsets on everything. No, you don't need offsets on anything. So talk to your broker about that and the cost, and make sure you tune that up. But you only really need one offset on your principal place of residence, and you want it to be transactional, okay? So you can use a card. There's an advanced way where some people sort of live off an interest-free credit card for a certain amount of time and get a bit more time out of it. Listen, I don't think that's required, but if that's part of what you're doing, then that's fine, but just have some discipline around that, because if you don't, you'll end up, so you need transactional and you need card access often, okay? Card access, whatever that might be. So how does it work? All right, so let's have a quick look at this and talk this through, and then I'll show you some. So your wages go into the offset. What else goes into the offset? Tell me, folks. Tell me what goes into the offset. Any cash, any spare cash laying around, all savings. So all cash that you've got, all cash that you have into the offset, okay? What else would you put in the offset? Your wages go in, fortnightly, monthly, whatever. And what else would go in there, folks? Now, there's a few things. Everything, yep. Put everything in there. It helps for sure, certainly. Why? And why does it help? Because it's non-deductible debt, folks. Remember, this 400K is the money that is non-deductible, okay? That's the one. What else in here? What else over here? What else from these two? Boom, right. You're dead right, Chris. So the rental income. So the rent goes in. The rent plus any deductions, tax deductions as well. So the rent all goes in. Everything goes into the offset, folks. Everything goes in. Rent plus deductions. Now, takes it, yep. You can absolutely, Brad, use, if you're in business, often some business owners set up their trading accounts to, flow in and out of the offset, and it helps a fair bit too. So that's an advanced way, and I like it. Talk with your accountant about how you do that appropriately. But it's fantastic. So everything goes in the offset. So that's great. So then what happens is it stays in. So when is interest charged? It's charged daily. And then, when payments need to be made, out to another bank or whatever, then everything comes out of the offset. So it's an in and out as we go. All right. You can set your buffers in there. You can any access to any cash and whatever. So sometimes what will happen though, so that's an offset. Now, where do redraws come in? All right, folks, where do redraws come in? Now, this is kind of liquidity, okay? Now, if this property grows in value, right, as they do, let's say your mortgage now is, let's say 10 years later, 500, it's paid itself off a little bit if you've been paying P&I or interest only or whatever. And let's say now that value has gone up to, 850, right? Okay, so in here, let's say you might have access to 100K, okay? Now, this is where redraws work in these investments. So this is where the equity top-up comes in, folks. You go in there, you lock in equity, you get an equity lock. It sits in a redraw against that property. You don't want to take it out if you don't need it, right? You don't want to take it out. If you took it from there and put it in your offset, then there's no value in that in true terms, because it's not a deduction, because it has to be against one asset. So, keep an eye on that. So that's how it works, right? So as this goes up, how do you create liquidity? Well, that's how you create liquidity. You get some equity in a redraw, and then lock that in, and that's access to your liquidity as you go along. So, and what could you do with that stuff? You could then, take that 100 and invest it in another property. You could use it for what I like to do is use it for my buffer now, because it's a standalone buffer on its own right, and you don't need to use your cash out of your offset, et cetera, et cetera. So, hopefully that makes sense. Often, people get it a bit confused, right? So then, and you could do the same with your PPR. Now, there's a little tip as well, if you wanted to. It doesn't necessarily make much different depending on the interest rate, by the way. But, if this was equity, if you put equity in there, you can pay that equity back if you want to, and you can, clean the house up. You can kind of if you wanted to, and you're kind of getting to that stage where you want to just say, I don't want it connected, you can sort of pay all the equity back, and you've got that kind of, this is when this is often, getting it down to zero, right? In there. And it depends on your investment strategy. If it's a bit more advanced, I like the idea of sort of income acceleration, using your equity for income acceleration, because your house becomes this kind of big, fat, lazy piece of wealth that doesn't generate you an income, and you're like, you got to keep an eye on that, folks. All right. But anyway, there you go. Thought that would be a good chat, right? So run your buffers. That's for, emergency, unexpected expenses, 5 to 10K per property. It depends on how comfortable you feel. That can sit in your offset account. Liquidity, when your properties go up in value, lock in some access to that equity. It's usually done via a redraw. And then, you use a redraw out there with the investments. And then you have on your own home, the offset. Everything goes into the offset, and it helps you pay that non-deductible debt down faster. There you go. All right. Wealth Coffee Chat done today. That was it. I had some other stuff to show you, but as always, I bite off a little bit more than I can chew in the mornings. I think, I'll go through that. I'll show them a spreadsheet. I'll do this. I'll do that. Didn't get a chance to do that this morning, did we? All right, folks, that's it. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted. Join me tomorrow for another one if you're up for it. We can hang out then. There you go. Cheers, folks. You guys take care. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.